fraud exposed.
How many times did you sign up?
Like 73 times.
Ties to a terrorist alleged.
Senator Obama chose to associate with a guy who in 2001 said that he wished he'd bomb more.
Past associations questioned.
Mr. Ayers has become the centerpiece of Senator McCain's campaign.
As the election nears, they're the issues generating all the heat.
We are mad.
Real issues?
Help us shape the agenda.
Or desperate attacks?
He had launched his career in the living room of a domestic terrorist.
Barack Obama. Ties that bind?
We need to know the full extent of Senator Obama's relationship.
Radicalized were his words?
That's his word, not mine.
Reporting from Washington.
Senator Barack Obama's historic candidacy has made him one of the most recognizable people on earth. But he is still our least experienced, least scrutinized presidential candidate ever. And he's running for the most powerful office on earth. Lately, the Republicans have questioned ties in Senator Obama's past that many, frankly, find unsettling. Is that fair? Do they really matter? If so, why has the discussion of it begun so late?
Our opponent is someone who sees America as imperfect enough to pal around with terrorists who targeted their own country. He didn't know that he had launched his career in the living room of a domestic terrorist.
Raising the explosive issue of Senator Obama's longtime association with William Ayers, former leader of the Weather Underground, now forever known as the unrepentant terrorist.
This association is pretty significant and is kind of telling regarding someone's judgment that they would be associated with a domestic terrorist who had, campaigned to bomb the United States Capitol and our Pentagon, and this is an unrepentant domestic terrorist.
And at a McCain-Palin rally, country music legend Hank Williams Jr. wrote the Senator Obama-Ayers connection into one of his tunes.
Radical friends to whom their careers are linked.
As Senator Obama dismissed the Ayers question as red herring, he even made it personal, asking one reporter, quote, "Why doesn't he say these things to my face?" Senator McCain did in the last presidential debate.
But as Senator Clinton said in her debates with you, we need to know the full extent of that relationship.
From the sound of this, Senator McCain's Republican voters want to hear more of Senator Obama's past.
We are mad, so go get him.
But will it help him win?
Of the fact that we don't really know the guy. He's literally served in the Senate for 100 weeks before he left the Senate, in effect, stopped attending and ran for president.
And then, more blast from Senator Obama's past. A rash of voter fraud investigations in 14 states, and claims by Republicans that the group involved, the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, also had long-standing ties to Senator Barack Obama and William Ayers.
60s terrorist Bill Ayers tied to Barack Obama. Here's what Ayers said in a New York Times article summing up the weatherman philosophy that he pretty much invented. Quote, "Kill all the rich people, break up their cars and apartments, bring the revolution home, kill your parents," Bill Ayers said. That's where it's really at.
With regard to the fact that David Axelrod, one of the spokespeople for Barack Obama, has said, well, when Obama was over at his house and launching his state Senate campaign in Chicago in the 90s, he did not know about Bill Ayers' domestic terrorist past. Do you believe that?
I find it incredibly hard to believe, Gretchen. I can't prove it 100%, but Bill Ayers was a hero in Hyde Park neighborhood, the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago, where Barack Obama had lived for years. People admired his 60s radicalism. They admired his radical education philosophy, which said that teachers should bring politics into the classroom. And Barack Obama was at that cocktail party at the end of 1995. At the beginning of 95, that's when he started to work for this education foundation, which was filled with people who idolized Bill Ayers. So how could he not have heard about it?
Yeah.
If you lived in Hyde Park, the Hyde Park Herald, the local newspaper there, regularly puts out articles about radicals, famous radicals who come and visit the area, and the headline usually says, famous radical coming to visit. They use the word as a compliment. This actually has a remarkable amount to do with the economic problems that loom so large right now.
How?
Because, well, on his foundation service, Barack Obama, both at this Chicago Annenberg Challenge with Ayers and also at the Woods Fund, where he eventually served with Ayers, we're sending money over to this organization called ACORN. ACORN, a very radical group that is absolutely at the heart of the current financial meltdown.
We talked on the show 2 days ago about the Annenberg grant, where essentially he believed in giving away money, not for academic achievement, but for political advocacy, and that he thought that the real problem in Chicago schools was a lack of connection between the school and the community, and that community involvement and political activism could deal with the problems. By the way, there was no improvement in student learning as a result of that program.
I started working as the director of Project Vote here in Chicago, and our task was simple. It was to get disenfranchised communities, minority communities, low-income communities to turn out to vote.
Particularly now, at this point in our time, is through the power of the vote. So I think what he's saying is where a Project Vote that was done 16 years ago, those issues, while the years may have changed, those core issues are still there. The child in South Philadelphia that cannot read, much like the child in the South Side of Chicago that cannot read.
But now there's another issue just as significant. This guy was the general counsel to ACORN in Illinois. His campaign now has paid ACORN $800,000 for its political activities as a contractor. And he distributed millions to ACORN when he ran the Education Challenge. ACORN has been raided by the FBI in 4 states and is under investigation in 11 for systematic and deliberate perpetuation of voter fraud. Now, I don't know if we'll get close enough in this election for fraud to be a factor, but the idea that he has supported, been involved with, been counsel for, and funded an organization and continues to fund an organization that registered a person 16 times and knowingly did it, I think is going to be a big issue.
It was raised today at an event I attended in Florida for Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, who's running for Congress in the 22nd District. And the Lieutenant Colonel noted that, you know, Obama's running for President of the United States. You know, it's a job application to the American people. If he were running for any other office in the federal government, he wouldn't get the job because he couldn't pass the security clearance because of his associations. With it's an amazing irony in this campaign, and I think it speaks to the relevance of associations for certain
using the
types
word
of
associations. I don't think that that's an appropriate word because it leads to the concept of guilt by association.
Right.
I am not worried that he is associated with Ayers. I'm worried that he spent $50 million of money Ayers got for Ayers' political agenda. And I don't want him running the Department of Education if he believes academic standards are not as important as radical activity. He is going to run the Justice Department. And his campaign is now giving $800,000 to an organization dedicated to the perpetuation of voter fraud.
Dick,
I think those are issues that have nothing to do with association.
The wife of Walter Annenberg approved him. Now, is she consorting with terrorists?
There was
the Annenberg?
It was an 8-man board that approved him. The money was gotten by William Ayers. It was his brainchild, his idea, and he wrote the grant application. And Obama ended up being the head of it. Now, we aren't going to be able to go back to 1995 and find out behind the scenes what role each person played. But we do know, and it's not important, what we do know is the purpose of this money was to radicalize and politically activate the students of Chicago. And that he had gotten $50 million to do that, raised another 60, and then distributed the money to ACORN and other radical groups.
The money came from the Annenberg.
I don't care in terms of this thing that Ayers was a terrorist. That's something else. What I care about is he has a messed up view of education, that he believes political activism is more important than reading
Annenberg's money?
scores.
No, they know where their money was going. Wasn't it? Didn't they know where the money was going?
He's not running against Annenberg. I don't care, give a darn about Annenberg. I don't know if he was on top of it, if he knew what was going on. I don't know the guy. I don't trust the guy. I have no relationship with him. But I know about education. And my feeling is that the money that we have for education should not go for radical political activity, but should go for reading and math.
An acorn doesn't fall far from the tree.
Every time he wins one of these primaries and then, you know, restates, I'm a community organizer. The experiences I had on the south side of Chicago are absolutely central to the kind of president that I'm going to be and the kind of campaign that I'm running.
He can't win without us.